All right. Welcome to the very first video of the movie Gregular. I'm Greg, so go ahead, sit back, relax, let's get into it. Very first movie we're going to cover is Home Alone, a Christmas family comedy that released in 1990 following the adventures of Kevin McAllister, an 8-year-old boy played by Macaulay Culkin. He has to defend his home and himself from a pair of burglars trying to break into his family's home when his family mistakenly leaves him behind for a holiday trip to Paris. The movie is written by John Hughes, it's directed by Chris Columbus, and it's considered a Christmas classic at this point, and it's personally my favorite Christmas movie that I watch every single year. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and give me a like if you'd like. Get out of here, go watch it. It's phenomenal. So, John Hughes, he may sound familiar because he is the writer and director of some of the most successful comedies of the 80s and 90s. He wrote and directed Breakfast Club, 16 Candles, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and Uncle Buck. And that's not all. The dude was not messing around. If you knew that already, sorry I had to sit through that. If not, then hey, now you know who to thank for giving us so much joy. Speaking of joy, Chris Columbus, he brought a smile to our faces with his direction of Home Alone 2, both the first two Harry Potter films, Mrs. Doubtfire. He also wrote the scripts for The Gremlins and The Goonies. Just, come on, round of applause for these guys. So many good movies here. Let's be clear real quick, though. This will be a movie recap with facts sprinkled throughout, so spoilers ahead. The movie begins at the McAllister family home in a Chicago suburb where chaos ensues as the family prepares for their trip to Paris. Everybody's just running around the house. So before we begin, though, let's go ahead and take a look at this beautiful home again. This house actually sold in 2012 for $1,585,000. That made me curious what it looks like today and how much it's worth. The house is now worth $5,250,000 according to Zillow. Wow. That's only a monthly payment of $36,000. Absolutely insane. The crew did in fact film some of the scenes in this house, like on the main floor and the stairs and whatnot. But most of the scenes were actually filmed on a 2-story soundstage that the crew built in a high school's gymnasium, the same high school that was actually used for Uncle Buck and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. All right, let's get back to the movie. Kevin's parents are Kate and Peter McAllister, and they have 5 children, and they're all scheduled to leave for Paris with Peter's brother and sister-in-law and their children the following morning. So Kevin, his entire life and this evening, is constantly teased by his siblings and his cousins, and he's provoked by his older brother Buzz all the time. He is asked by his parents to pack his suitcase, which in my opinion is an insane thing to ask an 8-year-old to do. He would show up at Paris with just one pair of underwear. He asks Buzz for help, and that's when Buzz decides to tell him the story of their neighbor, Old Man Marley, who supposedly murdered his own family. A bit later on in the evening, during a chaotic dinner with all of the family members, Kevin realizes that Buzz ate his cheese pizza and he hates every other type of pizza. And he attacks him, causing a chain reaction of accidents that he's blamed for. He spills the milk all over the passports. In the midst of it all, Kevin's dad throws away Kevin's ticket, which is an easy detail to miss, but it's shown briefly right before it is covered up by some trash. Hughes made sure to add details like this to defend the parents in making a mistake as horrible as leaving a child behind. During this scene, we also meet Fuller, the bedwetter. It's actually played by Macaulay's younger brother, Kieran, and it's his film debut. As punishment for causing all that chaos, Kevin's mom sends him to the attic bedroom for the night. They argue. He wishes that she would disappear. And I don't know about you guys, but I would absolutely love to spend the evening in that attic. It looks so cozy. A power outage happens in the night, which causes the alarm clocks to reset, which results in the family members oversleeping. And because of this, they're frantically scrambling everywhere, trying to get out of the house in time to make their flight, and they mistake the neighbor's boy for Kevin during their head count. Kevin is left behind. Family doesn't realize it until they are already in the air, and when Kevin wakes up and finds the house empty, he believes his wish has come true. Kevin is having a ton of fun with his freedom. He's doing things he normally can't do, like jumping on the bed, raiding Buzz's room, eating sweets, and watching R-rated films such as Angels with Filthy Souls. And if you feel like watching this gangster film in its entirety, check it out on YouTube. The short film was actually made for the movie. During his raid of Buzz's room, though, he finds a picture of his girlfriend, and out of respect for young ladies everywhere and not calling them ugly, the decision was made to put a boy in a wig to pose as the girlfriend. That boy was the art director's son. Also, during the exploration of Buzz's room, he knocks all of his shelves down, which causes the tarantula to get out. The wet bandits, Harry and Marv, show up. Harry, played by Joe Pesci, and Marv, played by Daniel Stern, have been targeting the neighborhood. Robert De Niro was actually offered the role of Harry first, and he turned it down, as well as John Lovitz. Anyways, Kevin turns on the porch lights, scares them away, hides under the bed, and he decides to man up, go outside and confront them, but then he comes face to face with Old Man Marley yet again, and He gets scared, as always. The McAllisters arrive in Paris and immediately try to come home, but they discover that all the flights are booked for the next 2 days. So Kate, the mother, tries to call home, but the phone lines are down, and so Peter and the rest of the family decide to stay in Paris while she manages to get a flight back to the U.S. Early footage of the film actually had many more scenes of the family in Paris. However, after multiple test screenings, they found that people just wanted to get back to the house to see Kevin. So did I, honestly. Kevin decides to go to the store to buy a toothbrush, and once again bumps into Old Man Marley, which results in Kevin running home in terror. In this scene, though, the camera focuses on a bloody bandage on Marley's hand. Keep that in mind. On his way home, though, he passes a house that the wet bandits are actually robbing, and in this scene where Harry and Marv almost run Kevin over, it was actually filmed in reverse to prevent any injury to Macaulay. Movie magic is honestly awesome. That's so cool. Like, you don't really notice, but if you do slow it down, you kind of notice. Harry recognizes Kevin and decides to follow, but Kevin, wises up and loses them before they can see where he lives. Harry and Marv return that evening, but Kevin has made the house look like a full-on party's happening. There's lights, there's music, there's mannequins moving around, and there's posters, and from the outside, looks like a legitimate party. Impressive work, really. Bandits decide to come back another night. At this point, Kevin's really beginning to miss his family, and when the burglars return, Kevin gets spooked, lights his firecrackers that he found in Buzz's room, and he plays Angels with Filthy Souls to make it sound like a fight is happening on the inside to scare them away. The bandits decide to stay at the house and stake it out, and they realize that Kevin is home alone, and then Kevin overhears them discussing they will return that night at 9 p.m. Kevin's mom arrives in the U.S., but she can only get as far as Pennsylvania. Once again, all the flights are booked. She cannot get home to Chicago. Trying to figure out what to do next, she is actually overheard by Gus Polinski, who is the lead member of a traveling polka band. He offers to let her travel with them on their way to Chicago. They're going to Milwaukee, but she can travel with them. She obviously accepts instantly. Gus is played by John Candy, who actually appears in multiple of Hughes' projects. He agreed to do film as a favor for Hughes and was only paid scale, which, I learned this as well, is the Screen Actors Guild minimum wage. He only got $414 for the movie. He did all of his scenes in just one day, which was 23 hours to be exact, and most of his lines were improvised. Kevin really wants his family back, so he decides to go see Santa to ask if he can bring them back instead of getting any gifts that year. On his way home after that, he hears a choir singing in a nearby church, goes inside, and once again runs into Old Man Marley. Old Man Marley comes up to him, and to Kevin's surprise, he wishes him a Merry Christmas. Marley then mentions that he's there to watch his granddaughter perform because he doesn't get to see her often due to him and his son being estranged. So Kevin simply states, just give him a call. Then maybe you guys can see each other. And they exchange a handshake, and then Kevin rushes out of the church to get home so he can defend his house from Marv and Harry. Once again in the scene, we see Marley's hand, except instead of a bloody bandage, this time it is a smaller tan bandage. Once Kevin gets home, he rigs the entire house with all sorts of booby traps and crazy contraptions, and he sprays water on the front and back steps so that it turns to ice. 9 p.m. hits, the wet bandits show up, and boy, do they get messed up. Fun little fact, though, is that Daniel Stern wore rubber feet during his scenes barefoot because he was trying to avoid injury, obviously. And the scene where he steps on the ornaments here, the ornaments he actually did step on them, but the ornaments are made of candy, which I thought was pretty interesting. While the duo are being outplayed by an 8-year-old, Kevin decides to call the police and send them to the neighbor's house. Kevin then makes great use of Buzz's roaming tarantula to scare Marvin. Yeah, that is a real tarantula on his face. You could never catch me doing that. His incredible scream here was added in post-production to avoid spooking the spider, and wow, is that scream iconic. Kevin runs up the stairs and immediately ziplines over to the treehouse. And this treehouse actually wasn't on the property, and it was built for the movie and destroyed after filming was finished. The stunt double that was used for this scene, though, is surprisingly a 30-year-old man named Larry Nicholas, which that was crazy to me. Kevin then takes off immediately, goes to the neighbor's house, and tries to lure Harry and Marv into the cellar, but they wise up and they decide to cut him off through the house. But the flooded basement here that he goes through is actually the pool of the high school that I previously mentioned. That's where they filmed it. After the duo cut off Kevin, they hang him on a hook, and during the scene, Harry threatens to bite Kevin's finger, and during one of the takes, Pesci accidentally did bite Macaulay Culkin's finger, and he broke the skin. Thankfully, Marley comes to save the day with a snow shovel. Then the police arrive, and the wet bandits are arrested. Kevin wakes up the next morning to a beautiful white Christmas, but unfortunately, no one's home. He thought his Christmas wish didn't come true, but Moments later, boom, his mom is in the house, a joyous reunion. And as his mom explains that, none of the family could make it, they all burst through the door with a wild commotion, and they took the flight that the mom didn't want to take earlier on. Kevin decides to remain silent about Harry and Marv and everything that took place, even though the dad does find Harry's tooth that got knocked out. And Kevin looks out the window and sees Marley reuniting with his son. The two exchange a nice little wave, and we see his hand, Marley's hand, that no longer has a bandage anymore. According to an article by Business Insider, this signifies like the healing process between him and his son, I guess, which is such an interesting addition to the film, and I did not know that. But you can't wrap this up without mentioning the glorious soundtrack that's done by John Williams, the man behind so many iconic soundtracks. I wish I could play some of the music for you here, but copyright issues. Home Alone was a massive box office success and it surprised everyone involved. It grossed $476 million against a production budget of just $18 million. It was the top grossing film of that year, which was 1990, in North America, and it was the highest grossing live action comedy ever, and it held that record for a very long time in the Guinness Book of World Records until it was overtaken by The Hangover Part 2 in 2011. It was also the highest grossing Christmas movie until it was surpassed by Dr. Seuss's The Grinch in 2018. Home Alone truly is a timeless classic for me. It never fails to bring a smile to my face and get me ready for the holiday season. The movie's just oozing with holiday cheer. I love it. If you want to check out my movie review for this movie and others, you should check out my Letterboxd at gwoods_, or you can check it out in the link below. Special thanks to IMDb, Cosmopolitan, Business Insider, and Mental Floss for articles containing this information because, I obviously didn't know all of this. I learned new things along the way too. And yeah, let me know what you think of Home Alone in the comments.